You are listening to episode 40 of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Welcome to the Peaceful Mind Podcast, a place for creating the peace of mind you need to be the best mom you are created by God to be. If you want to bring more balance, more joy, and more peace to your motherhood, this is the place for you. I'm your host, certified life coach and Catholic mom, Danielle Thienel. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm loving this topic and eager to get it to you because of its importance to you having a peaceful mind. My eagerness is having me just jump right in and talk about how you can stop fighting with your true self. Because many of you are. You're people-pleasing and holding off on revealing what it is you truly want and how you dream to live your life because of fear. Mostly fear of what others will say and do. And I have also been a victim of this in my own life, and I'm going to be sharing my own story about how I wasn't at times answering the call of my true self. But let's start by even just defining what true self is in the way that I want to relate it to you today. When I think of my true self, the word authentic comes to mind, and the word genuine. So authentic and genuine, real, it's like all the comprised characteristics that make up me, my mind, my heart, my soul, all my wants and desires, how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, what it is that I want, what did God make me to be, like who I truly am. What do you need? Like the qualities are that I have to share with the world. Like we know for the phrase, be true to yourself, is just like it's an honest evaluation. Who I am. And I even go as far to think about it in a way where it's what makes me special and unique. But also, how do I want to use those things along with my level of knowledge and my physical traits and all my goals and desires for this life, the one I get to live on earth? Yeah, it's all something like that. The definition of your true self, it's who we actually are. It's living the authentic experience, that feeling of being alive and having a real sense of self. And another way to define what the true self is to look at the opposite and talk about what the false self is, which is when you're hiding behind an appearance of being real. It's kind of like being on the defense all the time, where you're actually keeping yourself from being genuine. You're inauthentic with who you want to be. When you are in your true self, you realize you're capable of making the choices for your life and take responsibility for it. And when you're not being your true self, what that really means is you're letting others define you or choose for you. And the latter way of living, the authentic life living an inauthentic life can often have you feeling empty and numb. Whereas the opposite is true when you are living a fully authentic life, being your true self, who God created you to be, and using your gifts and talents to impact the world in a positive way. Most importantly, you are living an internal life that feels good to you, where you are owning your happiness and confident that you are true to yourself, living truthfully. And I want you to consider that if you're not living out your true self, if you're not being your true self, that it's time to stop fighting it. Because that's what it is. It's a battle. It's a battle between your true self and your false self. And it's there and it wants you to be free. Your true self exists. It's right there. And until you actually decide to live an authentic and genuine life, going after what it is that you want, you're not going to ever feel that total freedom and peace. And here is what I've compiled as 5 important steps that are necessary to stop fighting with your true self. 1 is that you must create the feeling of courage. Courage in your body, like all feelings, it shows up in your body, is done first by creating it in your mind with a thought that creates the feeling of courage. Step 2 is releasing old patterns and beliefs that no longer serve you. Step 3 is to tell the truth and align your decisions with your own personal truth, which includes stop people pleasing. Step 4 is to develop yourself, and that means to become aware who you are, what you want, and then grow and improve on yourself to develop that growth mindset so that you can become that person. And that includes learning from each lesson that is presented to you in life. And the last step is to go to your faith. So before we dive into those steps, I want to share a personal story where I now see where I wasn't using these steps and I wasn't living my true self. I was going by a false sense of self, and how I inevitably couldn't stay there any longer, and what it took for me to finally stop fighting with my true self and to start letting her be free. So the example I want to give you has to do with my jobs and my career, my vocations over the last couple decades. I may have mentioned it before on a previous podcast, but if not, here it goes again. So my first career, I was a professional ballet dancer. Now, this career totally lined up with my true self. I'd been dancing since I was 5, and here I was in my late 20s, enjoying my work, putting my gifts and talents to use, and really being fully aligned with what I wanted to be doing with my life, using my artistic abilities, receiving such fulfillment and gratification, and just having this deep knowing that I was truly and genuinely loving myself and what I was thinking and feeling and doing on a daily basis. Then there was also when I was a professional home organizer. I had always enjoyed cleaning out, making things neat and tidy, and just the act of organizing feels amazing to me. As far as I can remember, I've always enjoyed this process and organizing, and I looked forward to any opportunity that presented itself to me to be able to be in the situation where I was getting to organize things. So I did turn that into a job and created a business, and I just loved every minute of it. It really did feel like me. I felt like I was being and living out something that was fun and fulfilling and helpful. And when I would help others organize their life, I wasn't hiding behind any kind of facade. I was really just being me, and being me naturally. I also was living out my true self when I decided to certify and open and run my own Pilates business. Pilates was something that I came to and learned as a dancer, and I was interested in it, and I fell in love with this method of exercise. And really from that was just born naturally a business that had me teaching and helping others. This time it was through the Pilates exercise method. And just like helping people to organize, I quickly learned that in both organizing and Pilates, there was definitely not just the physical element of making your body stronger and longer and leaner, or making your house more neat and tidy, but there was most definitely a mental element of it as well that was actually the foundation of it all, which makes tons of sense now to see that my true self was always carried out in a position where I had to use the mind and to help people through their mental and emotional help in order to achieve their goals, which is exactly what I find myself doing these days as a coach. So that there tells me that this vocation of being a life coach is also living out my true self. So those were 3 examples of how I can really find in my life where I was being my true self. And here is where I recognize where I wasn't being my true self. Within all of the time and years of me doing those 3 examples I just gave you, I also had 3 jobs or careers or vocations where I most definitely was living my false self. The first example is when I was finishing up my dancing career. When I finished on the stage, I took a job in commercial real estate. Now, with these 3 examples that I'm about to tell you, there's a side note that I want to mention, and that there is much good that came out of me doing these jobs, even though I was my false self, because I'm the kind of person where I believe my superpower is to always see the good in everything. But what I'm going to concentrate on is the part of it where I knew that I was holding back, where I was hiding from, pushing down what I really wanted, because I thought that that's what other people wanted me to do, or the external conveniences, right, of money or prestige. That's what drove my decisions instead of listening to my true self. So back to the commercial real estate. It really didn't have or check off any of those boxes for me that I wanted to be doing as far as a living for my life. In other words, it didn't feel like me. It felt, while I was in it, it did feel constricted, even if I couldn't name it then or put my finger on it. I felt like I was going by the other's rules, which I know you are, but it didn't feel like that's where I could be my best self and the freedom to take on what it is that I knew that I was capable of doing. It's like I had to fit myself into their box, and it just didn't fuel me. Now, sometimes we have to do certain jobs to pay our bills, or we take it not knowing yet that we're not going to like it. But the thing I want to point out is that once I took the job and was in the midst of it, I did know deep down that it's not what I wanted to do forever, and that I didn't really fit there. And what I felt, what my true self would be enjoying, that wasn't it. So the second example was when I was home with my 3 young ones, loving and caring for them and being a stay-at-home mom, which I really did relish. I loved that opportunity and that vocation so much. And then I got a call and an offer to work outside the home. And I remember once I received that offer, I remember crying a lot. And then I remember being mad, saying I didn't know why this opportunity had to even come, because I don't even want to be put in the situation where I have to decide. But what was happening really was my true self was saying, no, you love what you're doing right now. You want to be a stay-at-home mom. You want to be there for your kids and pick them up from school and drop them off. But I ended up saying yes to this job because I really admired the person who asked me, and I didn't want to disappoint them. And I had my own father pointing out that I always liked and rose to a challenge. And then there was also the money offer part. And then there was a title, and there was prestige. It was a prestigious position. And it won out over my authentic self. And that's how I even recall and remember it. It was literally felt like a battle between what I really wanted to do, my true self wanted to stay home, and my false self won out by saying yes to that position. I now know what that crying meant. I didn't feel peace about it. And I know that the Holy Spirit was nudging me. It was nudging me to follow and trust my true self to stay home. I didn't listen, and I ended up for the next 1.5 years living out and doing a job from the place of my false self. And the whole time, it did feel like I was fighting my true self because my true self who wanted to be home with the kids and my false self that was thinking that this is what I should be doing, they were just always in my mind battling. It was kind of like a ping pong match going back and forth. I mentioned before that there was lots of great things that came out of this job, but I didn't feel peaceful. And then I didn't learn from both of these scenarios that I've just pointed out. So because I didn't learn from it, it happened again. So when I was back to being at home, and then at this point, I was even doing my Pilates business that, like I said, I just love, I got another call and another job offer for something that was, again, not in my field of choice, not really something that tugged at my heart, that I had passion for, but I let what other people thought and said, and really from my own end, the fear of not going for it, the fear of not saying yes to please someone else, when I truly wanted to say no. And wouldn't you know, at this job, it turned out to be the same thing, and even the same amount of time. I spent another 1.5 years battling in my mind and heart that I didn't really feel like I was being my true self and doing what I actually wanted to do. But it was at this time that my story goes that I did fall ill and I was forced to be still. And this is when I actually got another prompting from the Holy Spirit. But this time I recognized it, I heard it, and I did the very scary thing of following it. And I'll tell you right now, it took courage for me to leave and to go home and finally see the pattern of choosing my false self over my true self. So because of that, I drew the line in the sand, saying, no more. It's time to do and be my true self and start authentically and genuinely being who I was and what I wanted to do. I wanted to be who I was made to be. And I just had this deep inner drive to find it and to live that out in a different way. So this is where I finally took the step, all of the steps really, that I'm laying out to you today, which is I took courage in all the things that I did after. I focused and learned how to release my patterns and beliefs that no longer serve me. I started telling my truth, which meant I stopped pleasing other people. I took the time to improve myself and learn from each of those lessons and really develop the areas of my mind in order to know how to always show up as my true self. And I, of course, did the most important part, which is I really focused and strengthened on my faith, which provides the light forward and the strength needed to go living genuinely, authentically as you were meant to be. So if you are listening today and seeing where you might currently be in a battle between living a life of your best self versus where you think you should do or what other people think you should do, I just like to offer you to try taking steps moving towards these 5 things. Number 1, you'll have to be courageous. You will want to find all the ways to feel courage. And for me, I love knowing about the most repeated phrase in the Bible, which is, be not afraid. And whenever I'm fearful or scared, I go to God's word and say, there's nothing to fear. Be not afraid. I am with you. Because when you start living out your most authentic life and really being your true self, it can be scary and vulnerable. And so courage, it's something you'll want to cultivate for yourself on purpose. Number 2, again, you'll want to learn how to release patterns and beliefs that no longer serve you, however old they are. However old you are, that's how long you've been building up and thinking this way, how long you've been forming these patterns. And not all of them are bad or need to be changed. It's just what doesn't serve you. It didn't serve me to believe that making money over staying home with my children was what I should do. And for some, it's a pattern that does serve them. For me, in this one time of life, it didn't. And I benefited from hiring a coach that helped me release these patterns and beliefs. And now I do the same for others. But uncovering what those patterns are is a must, because you can't change what you don't know. Sometimes it's as simple as answering the question, what do I truly believe about myself? What do I want to be doing? If I wasn't going to be judged or ever disappoint someone else, what would I choose? What feels good to me? What feels like what I'm meant to be and do? If I could describe what my true self is, what would it be for me? For me, when I'm answering that question right now, my true self decides on purpose that I want to be helping others, that my true self has me aligning with my faith. And my true self is positive, always looking at the bright side. My true self is an entrepreneur. She gets more joy out of creating her own business than working for someone else. My true self wants to travel. My true self loves teamwork. My true self loves creating something new from scratch. And then step 3, when you're answering those questions or making all of the decisions that you do on a daily and yearly basis, you've got to tell the truth. When you do things in order to please other people or your kids, your spouse, your friends, your parents, you are giving away your power. You say yes to them and no to you. It's a lie. And when you say no to them, when you really want to be saying yes, it's a lie. So begin to align all your decisions with your truth. Step 4 is you always want to be improving on yourself. And the way you do that is to learn from each lesson that's presented to you in life. So now in the examples I gave you, I now know that if somebody called me up today and offered me a job, my answer would be a resounding no. Because I am so sure that what I'm doing right now is totally living my life according to my true self. Yet I also know I have so much more to learn and so much more to be. And so I'm always looking to grow, which these days for me is like investing in my brain, because I know that's how I can create every new thing I want in my life. So this is where I focus and put my time and energy, which is to develop myself, improve myself, grow my mind, stretch my mind, deepen my beliefs. So this is the step 4, how you can always be improving yourself. And then step 5, of course, through all of these steps, you need spiritual guidance. I want to include God's presence on my plans. I want him to help me live out my authentic, true self. I need his strength in order to do that. I need him to help me to stop giving in to my false self and stop saying yes when I mean no. I'm always going to take the step in all that I do to move forward in my life of reaching towards him. Okay, so to stop fighting with your true self, mamas, if there's just one thing that's coming to mind while you listen to this episode, if you're thinking about where you are now, where you've been too scared to make steps forward, to where you've been holding on to old ways of thinking and believing, and you know that they're no longer serving you, but you don't know how to unravel them, if you recognized a place where you've been people-pleasing and saying yes when you really meant no, or saying no when you really meant yes, and maybe you recognize that you've been kind of complacent and haven't really done anything to stretch or grow yourself, that you know that you want to improve in certain areas, but you haven't taken any steps and just feel stuck, if you've recognized any of it, like it's been a while since you've called on your faith to live a more life of truth, then I hope you will be inspired to take some kind of action today in one area of your life, in all the areas of your life. One conversation to be had, one change of how you're looking at your life. Whatever it is, I just invite you to stop fighting with your true self and let her be set free. And as always, if you want a coach in your corner to help you take these steps, to ensure that it happens, to start living the life of your true self today, I invite you to join me. This is what I help moms with. I help you live your life in truth, release patterns and beliefs that no longer serve you. I help you create courage for yourself and improve and develop yourself, all while calling on our faith and incorporating that into this human life. So don't wait, start now, and sign up for a call where I promise I got you. Let's just see what's going on for you right now, and let's talk about it and what it would look like for you to be living out your truest self and living your best life, because you are worth it. You can find the link to sign up by clicking on the show notes of this episode, or you visit DanielleThienel.com. That's DanielleThienel.com. As always, thank you for listening. I love you all, and I will talk to you again next week. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Are you ready to take everything I teach you here and put it to work for your own life? To really learn how to have peace of mind no matter what is happening around you? If so, I'd love to have you as a client. As your coach, this is where you'll get personal and focused time on your own mind, using life coaching tools, concepts, and proven life-transforming wisdom, all through a faith-filled lens. To learn more about how we can work together, come on over to DanielleThienel.com. There, you'll see how to sign up for a free coaching consult and learn how to get started. Until next time, peace be with you always.